Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you. Oh my gosh.
What?
What? I just listened to the episode that we are this episode. This is a funny way to start a podcast. But I just listened to this one, but now we're recording it.
That doesn't make sense. You're breaking my brain.
I know. Okay, well, this is a very special this episode and next week's episodes are very special, sacred spaces.
Yeah, they actually really are.
And very unique, and it is amazing. I cried, like wept a couple times listening to what the journey we're taking them on.
So to help you guys understand, you're going like, what do you mean? You listened to it, but you're recording it?
But you're about to talk about it now.
Okay, so basically, let me give you some background of what happened.
Oh, let me give them the background.
I want to give background.
Oh, okay, fine.
I'll give a little bit. Okay, so over the last, it was about a 4-month period, we had a course called the Living Fully Alive course.
Yes, it was awesome.
It was this online course that we did where people got on and we taught them a lot about emotional healing and it's this foundational building block for people to get healing and transformation.
Yeah, and for people who do that in other people's lives. We had counselors do it. We had people, life coaches, people who want to get into that field, take the class to understand how to work with people.
Yeah, so it gives a perspective on how to do what we do, but also walks people on a journey as well. It's one of my favorite things I've actually done with our lives. Anyways,
everything we do in the class is we lead by experience because we so want people to get that experience.
Totally. So anyways, our last class of the entire class, I felt like it was necessary for me to personally get counseled.
Well, and I'll say this, the whole class we're doing experiential things where they're learning, they're watching, they're seeing how you do it. Because I don't believe in just teaching knowledge. I want people to experience something.
We would actually take people through the transformation process live for people to watch and see. Now, for me personally, though, me as a leader, going into the last class, I had this stroke of genius, so to say, I guess.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like I need to allow our consultants, Marcus and Laura, who we've trained up, to actually walk me through an emotional healing process in front of everyone. Because for me, I have this strong value for, as a leader, living a vulnerable life.
Absolutely.
And showing people, like putting on display that if you're going to grow in any leadership capacity, there is no arrival point.
100%.
Where it's like, oh, I have to have it all together. I'm teaching all this stuff, but I'm also needing it at the same time.
Yes. And here's the thing. We've worked with leaders in every industry, in technology, in business, CEOs, in the entertainment industry, politics, church. And there's a couple ideas. When you become a leader, people think you've arrived.
Yeah.
And you can actually fall into that trap of thinking like I've arrived, or pretending, like just pretending that you have everything together so that the people following you believe that and believe you're worthy to be followed. And that's just a trap and we've seen it because leaders' lives explode.
Yep.
And they hurt people.
Yep.
And so there is this facade, and we so believe this. The rest of our lives is a journey.
Absolutely. And so to me, why not just live it authentically now? The authentic messiness, the pain, and just once you take the high stakes off and you go, I don't have to live out of perfection. I'm not pretending to be perfect. People aren't holding you accountable to perfection.
Yes.
And then you can actually get what you need. And so all those explosions that oftentimes happen for leaders, they're not going to happen if they just deal like progressively with it.
Well, and this is what the whole podcast is about embracing the journey and not so. Unconditional love is I'm going to receive love before I'm perfect. And I see so many people, and this is why we did it for our class.
Yeah.
Is so many people have this idea, like, when I become healthy, when I get over all my triggers, when I figured this thing out, then I'll be lovable.
And
when
then,
I'm the
and
right
then I'll
weight,
be qualified.
when I get married. There's always this thing. When
right.
this happens, then I will feel good about myself.
Right.
Then I will feel lovable.
And it causes you to live such a small life when you do that.
Yeah.
Because
you're keeping love out in the future.
Mm-hmm. And then you're keeping a lot of opportunities and all kinds of good things for you away from you. Anyways, because of that, I wanted to model vulnerability.
Yes.
And authenticity.
Gosh, your vulnerability is so sexy.
Let's just turn this off right now and do it. So anyways, so we go into that class and I come in with, currently I've been working through PTSD inside of therapy myself. And
which I love. I think I want to just do a plug for counseling. Like, we've done counseling on and off. It's not just for PTSD. It's for anything.
No, not at all.
But especially if you've gone through really hard stuff, and I think people don't even recognize what they've gone through as hard most of the time.
Yeah.
But, like, why would we keep carrying around pain with us when we don't have to?
And so this was specifically a season to deal with PTSD in relationship to my body and in relationship to my history at a level that I haven't had the capacity or knowing that I had it there, because it needed safe circumstances for it to flourish. And it feels like it's just a safe time of life, I think, for my soul to go, all right, now we can work on this. We've conquered foundations. Now we can deal with this. Anyways, the point of that is I come into this class, and one of the main triggers that I felt in my personal life was this need to be on all the time, to basically be able to come up with an answer, to be equipped with an answer, right? Especially in relationship with you or relationship with people. Like, you'd come to me and you'd be like, hey, do you have? What
do you think about this?
Yeah, what do you think about this? Or I need this done. And one of the quotes that I had said in the original recording in the class that I'd shared was this one emotion that was said this: I'm ill prepared. I'm going to get caught in a situation where someone demands something from me I can't give.
Yeah.
And so that emotion would strike me on and off, and Abby can talk about triggers in a second here, but it would trigger me in moments where people would all of a sudden expect something out of me, expect an answer, a solution, and my anxiety would raise. Now, not all the time.
Totally.
This isn't...
Yeah, like there's lots of times I ask you questions and you're great.
Correct. Totally normal, chill. But all of a sudden something would hit deep down inside that felt like it gripped me at the deepest places inside of my gut. And all of a sudden I felt almost like I'm a little kid again, a 15-year-old kid, a 7-year-old kid who's about to be in a lot of trouble and get really punished. If I don't give, we'll use Abby. She was one of my staple examples, but there's a million of them. But if I didn't give Abby the right answer, she's going to get angry, frustrated. She's going to disconnect, pull away from me. There's going to be harsh repercussions.
Yeah. And the truth is, you grew up in a household where there was a ton of punishment and tons of high consequences for your whole childhood.
A lot of intensity. Whether in that household, it not only includes, my parents, and we've gone in depth in the Liberation Project about some of that and stuff, but it also includes my grandparents and stuff like that. There was just a whole lot of high stakes.
Yeah. So there was emotional and physical and verbal abuse in your childhood. I just want to set the stage because some people have never heard
of my story.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pain and suffering that went on. Not
a lot of safety.
And not a lot of safety. Now, again, for those people who don't know, this isn't to rehash stuff against my parents. Some of you may just need to know. So my parents and I have gone on a healing journey over the last decade that's been absolutely phenomenal.
Miraculous.
Yeah, miraculous. However, there was verbal, physical, emotional abuse inside of my childhood. A lot of disconnection that was experienced. And one of the things that we talked openly about publicly is how nurturing was like non-existent.
Yep.
Like the concept of nurturing, of grabbing a kid in pain and be like, oh, hey, kiddo, let me hold you. Yeah. It would be, phrases like, suck it up and get over it. Build me a bridge.
Something to cry
build
about.
I'll give you something to cry about. Build me a bridge, cry me a river, and get over it. Those were some staple statements that I heard or saw displayed not only from my parents but grandparents alike.
Everyone around you, yeah. So you grew up in this environment with lots of pain and lots of consequences, and something you developed would be hypervigilance. And I think a lot of people who've grown up in trauma or pain have hypervigilance. I actually grew up with this too.
Do you want to describe hypervigilance?
Hypervigilance is where you're hyper aware of everything that's going on around you, of every person. So like you might be hyper aware of your mom's facial expressions, of the dynamics happening in a room, because what your nervous system and brain is doing is looking for all of the clues to protect you from an explosion happening, to protect you from being unsafe. So we learn, if I can just pay enough attention, if I can do everything right, if I can be perfect, if I can figure out exactly what you want from me and I can do that, then I'm going to be safe and protected.
Right.
And so what happens with triggers is you don't live that way. Like, that's not who you are, in the sense of like, you're not an afraid person.
My
you're
normal
bold,
day-to-day.
You're brave. You're powerful. You have a voice.
Yeah.
You're strong. You're capable. You're smart. You have a healthy self-esteem. Like, that's who you are.
Totally.
What triggers are is like something that happens in your life. I always think about it like hashtags. So when you go through an event, your brain is dialoguing a bunch of hashtags. So if you get beat because you forgot to clean something, your brain records everything that happened in that situation.
Yeah.
So that your survival skill can say, like, never let any of these things happen again. But what your brain does is, now if any of those things that got recorded, like
anything looks familiar to those experiences.
A facial expression, a smell, a voice tone, a similar situation about cleaning or about being put on the spot, whatever it is, when something happens that reminds you, all of your emotions from that event show up. And the reason they show up is so that your brain can tell you this is not safe. A great example of why we have the survival skill is, back in the day, caveman day, they meet a lion. The lion eats their friend. Their brain needs to record when you see a lion run.
What was everything that happened here so that it doesn't happen to me?
Have this happen
in case a lion eats me.
Yes.
Right.
And so your brain, all of us have this.
Right.
And what happens is, when we get triggered, often the person that happened to shows up. So that's normally a little kid.
Right.
My 7-year-old self is now driving my car.
Totally
not my
driving
adult
the ship.
Self.
Mm-hmm. So that being said, I know that these trigger moments come up, here and there sporadically, and I can feel something fly up inside of me. And I'm great at managing it, getting some comfort to myself. But I realized in this season specifically, it's on red alert. Like it's a flashing light that's very much in my face. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the season to deal with this trigger. So what you're about to enter into is not a state of my consistent being, of my normal life, but you're about to enter into a very raw moment where I decide to connect to the deepest part of this trigger, the deepest place of my pain, and I allow myself to go into full exposure, feeling all the feelings that I have towards my dad in the process, because my dad is a staple part of this. You're going to enter in as we connect with the reality that this is connected to my dad, which I knew it was, but we kind of went on a journey with it until we got there. And then we begin to open that up. Now, again, my dad and I have had major pieces of resolve inside of our life, but this is the hidden pocket of unresolved. So there are some of you out there that will be living a lifestyle where you're like, no, I'm good. Like, I've totally resolved that.
We've worked through so many
I've
things.
forgiven this person.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you start acting out in ways or feeling things that you're like, this doesn't make sense to my normal logic, because that should all be dealt with. But it's because this place inside of you, the trigger, the initial pain points, haven't gotten the love or the resolve that it's needed, or the nurture in order to release and let go.
Yeah, because I would say you've had this one trigger since I've met you, that like sometimes when questions come up, you freeze.
Totally.
But it's not it's not all of the time. It's just But it's now all of a sudden in this season, it's ready to do that. And I always tell people, it doesn't matter how healed you get. There's going to be moments where triggers come up, and it's an invitation into freedom. And when shame says, no, I already dealt with that, I should be fine already. And freedom and unconditional love and acceptance is so much like, perfect, I'm now loved enough, I can face this pain in a deeper way.
And so what you're about to step into.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe
we're about
it.
ready
so
to step
excited.
into it.
Ooh.
But what you're about to step into around my father, there's a beautiful thing about this. There's two things I'm going to say. One, my dad happened to walk in while my mom was watching this.
Okay, so wait, let me just say this. So you are being counseled live in our course, in front, on a camera.
Yep.
The video is in your face. You're letting yourself fully feel and go to the deepest places.
I'm saying the worst possible things.
Yes. And your mom's watching it because your mom is taking our course.
Right.
And while this is happening,
my dad walks into the room. He didn't know he'd gotten home early from something he was doing. And he hears part of it. My mom's like, what do you think? He's like, and then he's like, I gotta go into the other room. And he just leaves. He walks away from it. He walks in on it. And later,
I don't want to deal with that.
And later on, my mom's like, Bob, you're going to listen to this. And you're going to hear your son's heart about it. And then when we go see him in a couple weeks, you're going to go validate him
totally.
and have an intimate conversation with him. So the interesting thing about all this is Dad ends up seeing all this, the timing wise, just a couple weeks before he comes to Reading. And so this week he ends up out here in Reading.
Which is crazy.
It just the timing of it.
Yeah, it's so
nothing's
wild.
Planned out. It just kind of falls into place.
Yes.
And so we go, Mom and Dad, how about we sit down and do a podcast and we talk about it for the first time on a podcast? And my dad has an entire meltdown internally.
He's like, oh my gosh. He was so scared.
He was so scared. But what we did is this episode you're about to listen to this week is part 1 of a 2-part episode. The second piece that you're going to hear is a conversation that we have between the 4 of us. And it's not just about, oh, this is how Dad failed. It's an investigation into the heart of another man who's another little boy who's in pain. And we begin to humanize my dad, where a lot of us go into vilifying those who have hurt us in the past. There's this beautiful line that we can walk in our lives where we can actually process real pain and be like, oh, this really hurt. I'm angry at you, Dad, over here.
Yes.
And then on the other side, you can see the humanity inside them and have the compassion for where they've come from. So those two truths can coexist in a beautiful tension where we don't have to obliterate someone's entire life when we say, I have pain over here. And we don't have to just avoid all the pain and just say, you're just amazing. And so that's part of what we did is we open up our family's life in this next episode. And I open up this this is a very raw and real moment.
Oh my gosh.
And it's probably, there's a good chance that inside of your own heart, as you listen,
it's going to stir some stuff up.
And it may be...
I mean, listen, I just listened to it. It's stirred up in me. Like you have to be a cold, hard, dead human to not have any feelings listening to somebody in the middle of it. It's like a gut-wrenching release of the pain and beauty of seeing the goodness of love coming in to heal.
So, with that said, even the timing on this, I know that we've been talking about the Father series recently that we've launched. This may stir a lot of stuff up inside of you, and that wasn't the goal of it. It just happened to unfold like it.
It just happened.
And so we're like, we know that you guys may need some resources for that. And so a lot of you have been listening recently, and we know that the Father series is out. It's a 12-part audio e-course with 12 hours of content, 140-page workbook that you get. There's pre-orders out now on Justin and Abby, that's abi.com. You can go on there and look for it if this just messes you up and you're like, I need help.
100%. You're going to listen to this and you're going to realize, shoot, I've got issues because there's not a perfect dad out there. Nobody has them. But this e-course is so good at helping you feel your pain, but also get the hope and the healing and the truth and the beauty. And it's very full circle, very much like the relationship and the conversation we had with your dad was, which is we got to where you had compassion for you and compassion for your dad. And that's the goal. Love for both people.
Healing, forgiveness, all of
Healing.
that. Okay, so without further ado,
we're
going to jump into the deep end of the pool with what I like to call the holy ground of my heart.
Yes, it is. It's an honor
the sacred
to hear
space that I'm willing to give away to you guys freely, even though it's scary to hand out there because I could be super judged over it. But it's the most exposing place.
It's the most exposed. I mean, this is wild.
I haven't done anything more exposing publicly than taking someone into a healing session like this.
Yeah.
Not even my grandfather's death that I did publicly and shared that publicly. So, all right. Well, I hope you all enjoy.
Grab some tissues.
Yeah. Or
but it's a slow build. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
It takes you through.
Yeah. And maybe we overbuilt it. Maybe you'll be like, that wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. Maybe tone it down. This is going to be a level 1 instead of a 10. This is not going to be that cool.
Like
it's not that big of a deal.
It's not even a thing. Like
it's not even that raw.
Just do the dishes.
Yeah.
While you're listening.
Yeah. We're going to undersell right now so that we over deliver.
Yeah. This definitely is not even really a thing.
All right. Enjoy. So as a kid, I would be on a job site and my dad would be like, I need you. Here's an example, which actually provokes emotion. Like I'm already ready to cry on this one. And this is a very clear example of things that happened a lot. My dad decided that he wanted to go help his friend who owned a huge farm. And so he puts me in this giant, I don't even know what it was. It was like some sort of farm equipment. It was about a $400,000 to $500,000 piece of farming equipment. You get in it and you drive down the fields and it tills up all the fields and everything like that. And I got in the driver's seat with my dad, and Jeff, his friend, had 2 of them, and he goes, okay, here's how you operate it. Here's what you need to do. And he shows me basically what I need to do really quick. He's like, all right, you got it? And I was like, he's like, look, this machine's $500,000. Like if you screw something up, this is going to cost us a lot. We're trying to help Jeff. I need you. Like, you got it? Yeah. I totally got it. And so all of a sudden I start going, and I'm driving in this tractor machine, and I start feeling like I'm not sure if I have the depth right on it, because there's all these millions of things, like the depth, the direction of it and everything. And I remember screaming inside of this cab. I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs. I don't know how to do this. Totally. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to break this. And my dad was always uber intense. Like it wasn't like, hey man, this is how we do this. It'd be like, you got this, right? We got to get this done for Jeff. It's at the end of the day. He needs this help. And what ended up happening of us plowing those fields is Jeff had to go back and do all of them because none of them were done right at all. It was the first time I'd ever operated a piece of equipment like that. It was this big, expensive piece of equipment. And it was like that on job sites all the time. Totally. Where it's like, Justin, do you know how to do this? Yes, do this for me. And then when I didn't do it, there was a lot of intensity and explosiveness and disappointment from him. And a common phrase, and I talk about this in one of my compassion talks, but a common phrase that he would say to me were actually 2 things. 1, listen to me, just listen to the words I'm saying, as if I was stupid. And I'm like, that's how he'd get so frustrated like that. And then also he would say, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Totally. And those were major statements that got made. And so it felt like it wasn't, I was going to get a disapproving experience from my dad, but I also remember I was going to get humiliated in front of everyone because I was the boss's son, and he'd always say, I am not going to have some boss's son like everyone else has. Like, you're not going to be lazy, and you're going to be better than the rest of my workers. And one of the things that my dad did, one of the phrases that he used to say to me or that he used to do is, well, he would yell and scream at me over stuff that someone else did that was never my fault. And I'd be like, Dad, I didn't even do that. That was John, or that was Ed. Like, I didn't even do that. But he would do it in front of everyone. And years later, when I confronted him, I was like, you yelled at me all the time for stuff I never did. And my dad, like, verbatim said, yeah, I was too scared to confront them. So I wanted them to know that I was angry at them by yelling at you. And it felt like, I'm going to, like, if I don't do this right, I'm going to be humiliated. And the end of the world could come. I mean, because it was like, we were dealing with jobs that were hundreds of thousands of dollars and situations that could cost us so much. And it was always like, this could cost me the entire job if you don't figure this out. Or if you drive across the runway like that, it could cost me the entire job. Figure this out. Don't do this wrong. And so, like, everything was high stakes. It was the end of the world. It was the end of my dad's business somehow in a moment, is what it felt like was communicated to me. And it was the end of my dignity if I did something wrong. And it was the end of my dignity even if I didn't do something wrong.
Totally. So what I hear you saying is that it felt like you were set up for failure all the time, that there was no way to win, and that there was always fear and punishment and judgment around the corner.
Yes.
And that it was really high stakes, that you had to understand something from the first question or the first statement. So it makes sense with Abby why when she asks you a question, you have that trigger of, I have to give you an answer right away, or it's the end of the world.
Okay, I'm going to close your eyes. Put your hand on your heart. Justin's heart, I'm so sorry for every space that there wasn't room for growth.
I immediately, when I put my hand on my heart and I saw myself inside of that tractor, and I saw myself trapped. And I suddenly saw, like, every moment was me feeling paralyzed and trapped. Like, I'm in a jail cell. I'm trapped inside of something. There's no escaping this situation. There's no saying no. There was never a no. There was never a no, I'm not going to do that. No, I don't know how to do that. Like, those weren't an option.
Totally. Justin's heart, I hear that you felt so powerless as a kid. That in that moment with your dad, there was such a deep want to do the right thing and to figure it out that you felt trapped inside of that tractor. I'm sorry for every place where your dad didn't see the humanity inside you, that you, like, how should a kid know how to run a tractor without being taught? It's literally illogical.
I have this deep place inside of me. I can feel it in me where like there's this kid that's screaming and he's like, I hate you so much. Like, there's actually a level of hatred for my dad in this area that I actually haven't even, like, been aware of this unhealed piece until this moment, actually, where I, like, all of a sudden I'm like, I hate you so much. I hate you that you did this to me over and over again. I hate that you put me in these situations.
Totally. I'm so sorry that you felt so powerless there. I'm sorry that you didn't feel heard. I'm sorry that your dad didn't know how to hear your voice, that actually you were a scared kid who was really trying his best. I'm sorry for every place where your good intentions weren't seen. I actually heard that there's a kid who was trying so hard. Like, Dad, I really want to please you. I'm actually trying so hard to do a good job, and all you can see is every place where you think I'm failing. I'm sorry that you never got to know what it felt like to feel like, I've done good. I'm accepted here. I'm okay. I actually hear that there was never a place of, like, comfort and safety. I see, like, a picture of like a tightrope walker, but there's no net underneath. So, like, it feels so scary because if I miss one step, I plummet to my death. Like, it's destruction at the bottom instead of the net of knowing, actually, there's something that catches me.
I hear this. I hear two things. It's like, because I had watched my dad be like, he always affirmed me, like, oh, you're one of my hardest workers. You're my hardest worker. You're like, I can't do this without you. which was like this confusing thing of like this affirming compliment, but also like, don't screw this up. Don't veer over here. Like, and you're never going to be the boss's son who's lazy. So it's like, you have to stay here and keep work. Like, you have to work really hard and make sure things are really right. And you can keep getting this affirmation, but also the affirmation. Yeah. It didn't feel good. Like, it felt good. And then it felt horrible all at the same time.
Yeah. Cause it always had conditions. Like, it wasn't actually, but here's love wasn't actually unconditional for you. It had rules. And so it doesn't actually feel good to be loved when there are rules attached. That's not actually unconditional love. That's judgment. That's like, I have to buy into your game so that you'll finally like me. And I hear that that's actually how you feel with Abby. That's how you feel with other people. That's how you feel when people want your advice. Like, oh, I have to buy into your game or I don't get connection. You're going to create judgments around who I am and what I deserve if I don't play by your game. And I actually hear how powerless and debilitating that feels.
I also hear, why do you have to be so frustrated with me?
Totally.
Why do you have to have so much frustration? Like, I hear, like, I just can't do enough. I can't do enough to make sure that you're not frustrated with me. I'm trying as hard to make sure that you don't have to be frustrated, but it's not enough. It's not solving it.
I'm so sorry for the places where your dad taught you that you had to perform for love. I mean, that is the voice that keeps talking to you over and over, is that you need to perform for love, that you need to say the right thing, that you need to do the right thing, that you need to have a quick answer, that you need to be on point with everything in order to get love and connection.
When you said that, just really quick, I saw, like, I remember when he had asked me, like, what do you want to eat? Or, asked me, like, where, any question that required an answer, he'd be like, hurry up, come on, give me an answer. Yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. And like, it was like, sure, yes, whatever. Like, I was just like, what does he need to just get off my back? And I'm just going to give him whatever answer he needs so that I can just not be pressured into just having to make an answer happen.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for how high stakes your dad made every situation with you when he would talk to you, that he would make it like it was the end of the world on the smallest thing. That would feel so anxiety ridden all of the time. And it would feel like you have to constantly live by his rules instead of what you actually think or feel, because you're just trying to get him off of your back to feel safe, to feel okay.
What I hear is that there's a kid who lived in survival, so he never even learned how to have a voice. It's hard to have a voice and learn how to be alive on the inside when my world is survival mode. Mm-hmm. And I'm so sorry that because of your dad's own self-punishment and judgment, he took it out on you instead of dealing with his own shit. It wasn't actually a little boy's fault that he didn't know where he wanted to eat. It wasn't a kid's fault that he didn't know how to drive a tractor that he wasn't taught how to do. That's not a kid's fault. The actual purpose of a mom and dad is to teach a kid how to learn how to think, how to learn how to function, how to figure out how to do things. Your dad never taught you how to think. He just told you to do things. It's really like setting someone up for failure.
Yeah.
I see this exhaustion. Like, it's almost like the little boy's just exhausted and he's just like, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Just let me be. Like, you got your answer. Now just leave me alone. Just, here's your answer. Whatever you want, just leave me alone and let me go and let me be.
It's too heavy to carry the weight of someone else's approval. I give you permission to let go of the weight of winning people's approval and doing enough to make them okay with you. It's too heavy for someone to hold.
Oh.
I want you to see in your head the picture of that kid driving the tractor. And I want you to see that he's feeling all the overwhelming emotions and he's feeling so, it's like all so big, right? Like, it's so big And he's just wishing, I wish I had a dad here to speak truth to me. I wish I had a dad here to help me. I wish I had a dad here to get in my face and in my level and understand how I'm feeling. And I want you to imagine God as a father. And I want you to think, like, this is the father of all of humanity, right? Like, he's been fathering every human that's existed, every place of pain and brokenness and fear, every place of someone who's felt insecure, unsure. When David had an affair, God was there fathering him. Like, this is God as the father who's been really good at this job. So he's not overwhelmed. He's not frustrated or overwhelmed by a kid who doesn't know how to drive a tractor.
I see this other memory that I think is pertinent because it's a strong one that also epitomizes things, and I feel like my heart's like throwing it out because of that, totally. How high stakes it was.
That's great. I love that.
And there was this big giant lift. We were in North Dakota putting up power poles into the ground and wiring this whole area. And this lift had, I mean, the wheels were it alone were almost double the size, like 10 feet high. The wheels that were on it, was huge. You had to climb up a ladder to get into it. And it was a forklift. It had these forks on it. And it was a really crazy day, and we had a limited amount of time to get all these poles set into the ground. And here's the lift, and my dad gets on the forks. Like, the forks are like 6 inches wide, and he's up on them, and he like takes a chain and wraps it around this giant power pole, and he's on it, and he's like, okay, Justin, I want you to get in, and this is how you run this machine, and you're going to lift it like 40 feet up in the air, and I'm up there on top of it, and I need you to be careful because I don't have any safety rope or anything, and if I fall off, I'm dead. And I'm like, I can't do this. I've never done this before. Like this, and I got in the machine and started running it and had really touchy controls, and like any movement like threw everything around. And he had 5 other guys there, and I was like, why can't you have someone else do it? Just have someone else do it, because he's like, because I don't want them to be responsible for me dying. If I fall off, and it's like this power pole that doesn't need to be put in that, like, spend more money, get someone else to do it, but don't put me in it. And as it's pouring out, it's fogging up the machine. I can barely see through it, and the controls are so like tough. They're like, you can barely, like, if I barely tap them, it shakes the whole thing, and he just keeps screaming, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, and I'm like, I'm trying, and I'm screaming at it, and I'm feeling all this anxiety. And afterwards, all the guys were like, "I'm so glad I wasn't in that cab," and I was like in there just paralyzed because like. And it wasn't once, it was like 6 or 7 of them, one after another, that I had to try and get him up there on. It feels like it epitomizes like this high stakes. Everything's going to fall apart. Like, I'm going to kill my dad. If I don't get this right, I'm going to kill my dad.
I want you to see that same God as a father walk up to that kid who's trying to run the controls. And I want you to see him wrap his arms around that kid. And I want you to see that he's strong and powerful, but also so soft and kind. Like, he's both like, he feels so big, it's like, oh, you can take care of this. You can take care of me. But he also doesn't feel aggressive where it's going to hurt me. Like, he's like, this is God as the father of compassion and comfort. Like, he's really good at bringing comfort. And I want you to see that he comes to that kid, and he wraps his arm around him and pulls him in close, and he says, I got this. I got this. I mean, hear him say, Justin, you don't have to make sure he's safe. I can do that. And I want you to see that even though there wasn't like security things holding him in, that the Holy Spirit was up there, and he was holding him in. And so it's actually not all on your shoulders. And I want you to hear him say, Justin, I'm big enough to make sure that your dad's okay. I'm big enough to handle this situation. You don't have to carry the weight of it on your shoulders. And I just want you to feel what it feels like in that moment to have someone hold you. And I want you in that moment to ask God, can you actually take care of this situation? Are you big enough to take care of this so I don't have to?
Here's what I see. Like, I see something where I actually have to participate in this.
Totally.
And I see myself as the man I am now at 36 instead of the 25-year-old, you know, and I need to go out and talk to him. Dad, this is complete bullshit. Why in the hell would you ever put your son in this situation? Why would you ever put him in a situation where he's the one responsible for your life? That you think that that's okay to put that on his shoulders? Justin, you can say no to this guy. You get to walk out. You get to walk away. You get to let him be disappointed. You get to let him kick and scream and get frustrated as much as he wants to get frustrated. You don't have to be inside of this anymore. You don't have to be stuck inside of here. You get to get out. You get to leave him up there. Someone else gets to take care of him. This was never your responsibility. If he dies, it's on his shoulders. It's not even on your shoulders. Because he's chosen to get up there, because he's chosen a really shitty decision to put himself up there without being tied off, to not spend the extra money to go get some other piece of equipment that would do it right, because he had a poverty mindset about the situation. This isn't on you. This isn't even legal what he's doing, and you're not bad for saying no. In fact, you have permission to call authority figures. You have permission to call somebody with OSHA if you want. And it's not your fault. You can't crush his business because he was being stupid. That was his decision. It's not yours. It's not on your shoulders. You have permission to walk away from this right now. You have permission to receive the Father's comfort and to know that it was never your job to take care of this right now. I actually see Justin getting out of the vehicle, not even lowering the boom, and being like, somebody take him. I don't care. Stay up there. Scream all you want. You're an idiot for choosing to use the lift like this. This isn't my problem. And internally, I'm just saying, you have permission to walk away. And I see myself pulling the tractor over and getting out of it. I don't want to do this. It's okay that he's angry. It's okay that Jeff is disappointed. I have permission to walk away. I don't want to. I don't get it, and I don't want to do it. Oh, I hear this. I hear him say, as he was trying to walk away from the farming equipment, I heard him say, but he always made me feel so stupid. If I walk away, I'm stupid. I'm so sorry, Justin, for every place that you felt stupid. I'm so sorry for every place that your dad created situations in the way that he responded that made you feel stupid. I'm so sorry for how belittled you were. You're actually brilliant. You're not stupid. And the reality is that you shouldn't be able to drive this equipment after being shown how to do it for 10 minutes. That's unrealistic. They have entire user manuals and things that people have to go through to learn this. You should have never been able. It was absurd that Dad ever thought that you should be able to figure this out in 10 minutes. You are 16 years old. You don't even have the skills equipped to learn how to run this in 10 minutes. You are not stupid. You are not stupid when you don't have an answer for someone. You're no longer in a jail cell, Justin. You're no longer in a jail cell. There is no one holding a gun to your head. There is no high stakes. I break the lie that everything is going to fall apart, that your family is going to get destroyed, that your father's going to die, that your future is inevitable doom. I just got to yell this out. I got to say this out, like at him. I'm not dumb. I'm not dumb. Quit treating me like I'm dumb. I'm not dumb. I actually just have limitations. I'm not dumb. I just have limitations. I'm not bad for it.
The reality is limitations are a gift to us because we get to experience trust. That God made humanity in a way that we would have a space in us that needed him.
You don't have to be on, Justin. You don't have to be on guard. You don't have to be on point at the drop of a hat.
You don't have to be good enough for people. You don't have to. I see it like, you know, people say like dance monkey. It's like that, like dance monkey, and you feel the pressure like, oh, they're saying it. I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to do it. I give you permission to not do it. Who cares if they're pissed? You feeling safe and secure in your own skin matters more than if people are pissed because you don't answer their questions.
I give you permission to feel smart even if you don't have an answer for someone. I give you permission to redefine what you say about you, that you aren't dumb.
I saw the father kneel down and get in front of me. And he says, you don't have to take on Dad's over responsibility. He was overly responsible for Jeff in this moment. He was overly responsible for his dad's business. He was overly responsible for providing for the family. He was overly responsible for getting stuff done so that people, you don't have to take on your dad's over responsibility. You don't have to be overly responsible for dad's emotions and dad's sadness in his life. You don't have to be overly responsible for all the places where he feels like a slave to his work and a slave to money, and he feels like a slave to his life. I just see myself walking over to my dad and handing him his over responsibility and just dropping it into his hands. And I see him handing every moment. I see him and I'm walking over and just handing to him every time that he treated me with aggression and like I was dumb. And I'm like, that's yours. That's how dumb you felt all the time inside of yourself. Totally. I don't need that. That's yours. That's your fear of failing your own father. That's your fear of never hearing I love you out of your dad's mouth. Well, my dad in heaven loves me, so I don't need to worry about that. I'm telling Justin internally, you have permission to laugh at Dad. Like, laugh at his absurdity, laugh at his anger, like actually laugh at how absurd it is that he thinks you could be able to do this and he thinks that you should have an answer. Like, you can act like I see this lightheartedness of me being like, are you kidding me? You're insane if you think I can drive that. You're insane if you think you can tell me there's no such thing as can't right now. I actually can't at this moment. I need a lot more help than this. You're insane if you think I'm going to put you up there. I'm not going to be the one to do it. Mm-hmm. You're insane if you think I'm supposed to give you an answer after giving me 2 seconds to say it. That's hysterical that you think someone can actually just give you that. You're absurd. And I see him just be like, whatever, dude. You're out of your mind. Deal with your shit. It's not my problem. I hear this last thing, like, I was always on Dad's timetable. He was never on mine. There's no room for my timetable, whether it was my learning curve or it was my questions. And I'm just handing him his timetable back and being like, this ain't my timetable. This is your timetable. These are your expectations. These aren't mine over me. I don't have to abide by your timetable or your expectations. I can't do it. And if you're angry at me, I don't care. I'm not going to show up and do what you want me to do. Yell, scream, distance yourself from me. I don't care. Justin, you always had the Father in heaven. And I'm so sorry that you never felt like Father God was here in this place. And I give you permission to now have Father God it peppered through every one of these moments where when Dad's disappointed, you can just let him be because Papa's here and he loves you fully. And you can actually feel his affection. And so as Dad's frustrated, you just get to go, oh, God's happy with me. I'm going to go hang out and do something else. It's okay that Bob's unhappy with me. Totally. This is the last thing I'll say to myself. Justin, you have actually permission to let Abby be frustrated and disappointed with you when you can't give her an answer. You have permission to tell her, I don't have an answer. Sorry. You have permission to stop projecting your relationship with your dad on your relationship with Abby. You have permission to stop projecting your relationship with your dad on every friend, every person that comes across from you on a bad day. And body, I give you permission to bleed out the trauma in the days to come, to release the trauma, cry out whatever you need to cry out. I give you permission to feel set free from the chains of being chained in those situations. You're no longer in a jail cell. You have permission to say no as much as you want.
You feeling safe and at peace matters more than other people getting what they want out of you. You get to go on the journey of treating your internal world different than the way your dad treated you. You get to let go of the judgments towards your heart that your dad had towards you growing up. Every time you say no, it is an invitation of love over your internal world. And that is worth it. Even if someone else is pissed, you getting the love that your heart deserves is worth it. It's not for naught. It's not selfish to choose to love your heart in that space. Love you.
Yeah,
love you too.
So proud of you.
Thanks. Thank you.
What are you feeling?
I feel a lot of relief. You know, it's not like I always feel anxiety in those areas, but this is like me going down to the way deeper places of trauma and letting myself feel fully loved and supported and permission publicly, you know, where I felt humiliated publicly, I get to feel like permission and loved publicly to just go, all right, I'm letting myself be seen in all of that. I feel relief. I feel like it's a piece of the promise of God in this season as he's dealing with the PTSD that I had from being sick. that this is a component out of it.
Totally.
So I feel good. I feel relief.
So there you go. That was the roller coaster of a counseling session that I had there with Marcus and Laura. And as you can see, I obviously, with some of the tools in my own life, knew how to even talk to myself in ways that I needed. And I think that that's kind of the beautiful thing about the healing process, is that we don't necessarily have to have other people in order to get what we need. I didn't have to have my dad there to process that out, and I could give myself comfort. However, the beauty is that we get to have people. And in my history of doing life, I was always veered towards not letting anyone in on the process and doing it all on my own. And there are some of us that, we rely heavily on people and we don't take it into our own hands, our own life, to go inward and give ourselves the compassion and the love that we're missing. And then there's the other people on the other extreme that in areas like this, they don't allow people into their world to be part of the redemption process of healing. So really, for all of you out there, as I just wrap this up, Abby's not with me any longer. I sat down and felt like I needed to kind of create a bumper for the end of this, which is interesting that Abby's not even here for this right now, but kind of like, instead of just cueing music at the end of that, maybe I'd just say a few things. I would say for homework for some of you out there that have just listened to this, and I would assume that some of you felt pain, maybe some of you tuned out because it was too much emotionally, or maybe some of you are just living disconnected. I don't know, but I think if it started provoking things inside of you, I think I would definitely, as homework, take the time to sit down and write down, like, what did that remind me of? What did that push up in my own journey with my dad, or my own journey with pain with somebody in my life? Or like, just be aware of what it provoked. And even ask the question, like, what about my history did I have? Because as we watch me walk through moments where I kind of rewrite my history. I have a conversation, a much needed conversation that needed to be happen all the way back then, but I'm having it now inside of my memories. And there are some of you out there that may need to take a moment to go, oh, there's a piece of my history that I need to revisit, and I need to have a voice inside of it, and I need to talk to myself and let myself off the hook and forgive myself and release myself to not be in a difficult situation, to have a voice, all of those things. So I would say that would be the piece of homework for you today. And I'm really glad that everyone joined in. And with it being such a vulnerable and exposing episode, I know that, again, that could create vulnerability for someone else, where all of a sudden you're going to start feeling exposed and stuff. But I'd love to hear your feedback from this episode. Love for you to jump on and shoot us a message over at The Connected Life on Facebook.com/The Connected Life Podcast. Shoot me a message. Let me know how you're affected by it, what it stirred up inside of your life, what it may have brought healing to as you process through it. And remember to jump onto iTunes and rate, review, subscribe, and share. Share this with the world around you so that we can get that message out there. And that's the only thing that we ask, since we don't charge anything for what we give out. We just ask that you share the message so that other people can go on a journey of finding freedom and wholeness themselves. So anyways, again, thanks for joining, everybody. And this is Justin going solo and saying bye now.